Welcome to Retro MX Reviews. Thanks for checking us out. We're coming to you for our first review from our new home in South Carolina. We decided to relocate back east, enjoy the sun and fun back here. Today our retro bike is not terribly retro. It's a 2004 Honda CR125. A little newer than my vintage bikes, but I'm actually building this one up for my little brother. He's getting into motocross, and I feel like a 125 is definitely an important stepping stone for any kind of rider. A little bit about this bike. This is Craigslist find. The owner complained of it not having top ends, so he'd taken the cylinder down and he was convinced that there was some things going on with the cylinder or the carb, but all of that looked okay after I picked it up. And so the next thing that came to my mind is, of course, the power valve. This bike has the RC valve, which is electronically controlled. This is only 1 year on the 125, kind of a short-lived experiment. They didn't even change the cases on the right-hand side. I'm pretty sure you could retrofit the standard centrifugal mechanism in there if you really wanted to. But anyway, I did some research, and as soon as I pulled the motor apart, it's completely seized up. It looks like this rusted up little thing that had been laying on a beach or something. Did some research. There's a great thread on Thumper Talk that details this, but the punchline is you can buy for say 15-20 bucks a little electronic motor. It's the kind of motor that's used in radio control cars and boats, and you solder that in, and then you have to put a for the one I used, the Mtroniks M400, I had to also replace the little pinion gear, which is, I'll put the exact info on it in the comments. But anyway, it was a couple bucks, but they're hard to find. So first ride on the bike, had a crank problem because I was trying to cheap out and didn't rebuild the crank. Bad move. Second ride on the bike, the power valve, the old gear that I used just wasn't working. It couldn't bite on the shaft because it's a press fit. So this week I've taken it and redone it with the correct gear, which also has to be drilled out with the number 44 drill bit. A lot to this little power valve. But anyway, so I kind of had a ride on it last week, but I just wedged the power valve open and rode it like that. So not a lot of mid-range. So I'm looking forward to taking it out today and kind of having a look at it and seeing if, see if it runs a little stronger there in the mid-range. So with that, let's take a look around the bike and we'll go from there. They're working on the track. That was the loud thing. I'm at the GTR complex in Gaston. Okay, 04 CR125. Actually very similar cosmetically. They didn't change them very much up to the very end from so 2000 to 2006 or 8 or whenever they stopped. But they were still experimenting with this motor. You can see this RC valve. The 02s and 03s were known for not being as fast as the Yamahas, so they were trying to see what they could do to scrap a little more power out. Aluminum frame bike, which means it cleans up great and pretty easy build. They use KYB suspension on it, and this one is all stock, so we're going to get a good feel for what a bone stock bike would be, the exception of the shorty sounds. By this time, there wasn't anything all that unique going on with dirt bikes. This was the beginning and the end for professional racing for the 125 two-strokes. But, at this point, compared to some of the other reviews I've done, everything is where it should be, and the layout is as it should be, and set suspension travel and all that. So, let's go take her for a ride and see how she does. Okay, so here we are post-ride. This is probably the strangest Retro MX review I've done, because we actually started at one track, and then I had a bike problem, and then I went back to that same track, and there was an accident and the track was shut down. And so take three. Today we are at Dirt World MX in Statesville, North Carolina, and it's a nice hard clay track. But the problems we were chasing it was a power valve problem, and I actually had to track down the right gear and get that on there, and it seems to take care of the problem now. This bike had a really, there were some reviews that gave it a pretty bad rap, but honestly, I feel like if you keep that motor spun up, it delivers. I don't really don't have a great amount of problem with the power, and this is with a stock pipe and stock reeds, so I think you could easily get a little bit more out of it. You know, if you're dealing with a bunch of 125 pros that are riding a bike to its potential, that's one thing. But nowadays these bikes are getting used for beginners, and even there's classes in Arma Vintage for them. So there's usually such big gaps that the little differences just don't make that much of an impact to results. So anyway, so motor, once the power valve was fixed, it got the mid-range a lot better, and it revs out, and nice strong power on top. Very, very weak on the bottom. Definitely not as strong as the Yamaha off the bottom. I had a 04 Yamaha also, so I've got a pretty good frame of reference. The chassis is really cool. It's a really roomy feeling bike, and it feels like, even though it's roomy, it doesn't feel heavy. So it's just like this nice, controllable feeling, and it turns great. The suspension is really good, and it's a stock suspension. We haven't done anything to it. And like for me, that's what kind of stands out, is just that you can take this bike and you just jump on it and go, and everything feels like you would expect it to, and it just feels really natural. And I think that's just something that Honda has always done really well. So, nothing earth-shattering on this review. These bikes are, the changes were very incremental up in the last years, so it's not like going from a 78 bike to an 81 bike. You just don't have that kind of evolution. But all in all, I think it's a good race weapon. I think it's going to work good for what my brother's going to do with it as a beginner. And yeah, it's a really fun bike to ride too. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Please, if you got some hot tips, especially I'd love it if anybody had any info on converting it to a mechanical power valve actuator, because I think that may be on the horizon. I just don't trust the RC valve gimmick. So if anybody's got info on that, it'd be awesome, and thanks for watching.